Once upon a time, in a city that never slept, lived a man named Alex. Every morning, his alarm clock would ring at exactly 6 o'clock. Alex would jump out of bed, put on his expensive suit, grab a quick coffee, and rush out the door. His life was a blur of meetings, deadlines, and endless emails. He was a successful architect, known for designing tall, shiny buildings that touched the sky. Everyone told him he was living the dream. He had a beautiful apartment with a view of the entire city, a fast car, and a bank account that never seemed to run out of money. But every evening, when Alex returned to his empty apartment, a strange feeling would wash over him. The city lights twinkled below, but they felt distant and cold. He would sit on his designer sofa, the silence of the room louder than all the noise of the day. He had everything he had ever worked for, so why did he feel so empty? It was a question that haunted him, a quiet whisper in the back of his mind. One Tuesday, Alex was in a particularly stressful meeting. His phone buzzed, but he ignored it. It buzzed again and again. Annoyed, he finally glanced at the screen. It was his younger sister, Lily. He declined the call and sent a quick text. In a meeting. Can't talk. A few minutes later, another message from her appeared. It's important. Please call me back. Alex sighed. He loved his sister, but she always seemed to call at the worst times. He decided he would call her back after work. But after work, there was a dinner with clients. Then he had to prepare a presentation for the next day. By the time he remembered to call Lily, it was almost midnight. He decided it was too late and went to bed, promising himself he would call her first thing in the morning. The next morning, however, started with an emergency at a construction site. Alex spent the entire day running around, solving problems, and talking to engineers. The thought of calling his sister was completely pushed out of his mind. It wasn't until he was driving home that evening, stuck in traffic, that he remembered. He felt a pang of guilt. He pulled out his phone to call her, but just then, his boss called with an urgent request. The call with his boss lasted for 45 minutes. By the time it was over, Alex was exhausted and just wanted to go home. This pattern continued for the rest of the week. Alex was always busy, always putting out fires, always chasing the next big project. His life was a non-stop race, and he felt like he was constantly running but never getting anywhere meaningful. The feeling of emptiness grew, like a hole in his chest that no amount of success could fill. On Saturday morning, Alex woke up feeling unusually tired. He didn't have to go to the office, but he had a long list of work-related tasks to complete at home. As he sat at his desk, staring at his laptop screen, his phone rang. It was his mother. He almost ignored it, but something made him answer. Alex, his mother's voice was soft, but there was a sadness in it that he hadn't heard before. Have you spoken to Lily? No, Mom. I've been so busy, he said, already feeling defensive. I was going to call her. Is everything okay? There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Alex, his mother said again, her voice trembling slightly. Lily is in the hospital. She had an accident 2 days ago. She's okay, she's recovering, but she's been asking for you. The world around Alex seemed to stop. His busy schedule, his deadlines, his important meetings, it all faded away. The only thing that mattered was the image of his sister in a hospital bed waiting for him. He had been so wrapped up in his own world that he had missed what was truly important. The emptiness he felt suddenly had a name, regret. Without a second thought, Alex shut his laptop, grabbed his car keys, and drove. He didn't care about the traffic or the time. He just drove. The 2-hour drive to his hometown felt like an eternity. All he could think about was Lily. He remembered all the times she'd been there for him, cheering him on at his soccer games as a kid, helping him study for exams in college, always believing in him even when he didn't believe in himself. And how had he repaid her? By being too busy. When he arrived at the hospital, he found his parents in the waiting room. His mother hugged him tightly. She's been waiting for you, she whispered. Alex walked slowly into Lily's room. She was lying in bed, her leg in a cast, but she smiled when she saw him. It was a weak smile, but it was the most beautiful thing Alex had seen in a very long time. You came, she said, her voice hoarse. Tears welled up in Alex's eyes. He sat down on the chair next to her bed and took her hand. "I'm so sorry, Lily," he said, his voice cracking. "I'm so sorry. I've been a terrible brother." Lily squeezed his hand. "It's okay, Alex. I know you're busy. I'm just glad you're here now." They talked for hours. For the first time in years, Alex wasn't thinking about work. He was just listening. He listened to Lily talk about her job as a kindergarten teacher, about the funny things her students said, about the small community garden she had started in her neighborhood. He realized how much of her life he had missed. Her life wasn't filled with fancy awards or big paychecks, but it was full. It was full of joy, connection, and purpose. Alex stayed in his hometown for the entire week. He helped his parents, read books to Lily, and even visited her community garden. He saw the brightly colored flowers and the healthy vegetables, all planted and cared for by people in the neighborhood. He met Lily's friends, who welcomed him with open arms. They shared stories, laughed, and ate together. In that small garden, surrounded by simple kindness, Alex felt a sense of peace he hadn't felt in years. The hole in his chest started to feel a little smaller. When it was time for Alex to return to the city, he felt different. The drive back wasn't filled with anxiety about work. Instead, he thought about his life. He had spent so long building tall, empty buildings that he had forgotten to build a life for himself. The following Monday, Alex walked into his office and did something he had never done before. He told his boss he needed to reduce his workload. He explained that he wanted to work on projects that were more meaningful, not just bigger and more expensive. He wanted more time for his family, for himself. His boss was surprised, but he agreed. From that day on, Alex's life began to change. He still worked as an architect, but he chose his projects carefully. He designed a community center, a library for a small town, and a beautiful park. These projects didn't bring him as much money or fame, but they brought him something far more valuable: satisfaction. He started leaving the office at 5 o'clock every day. He called his sister and his parents regularly. He even started a small garden on his balcony, a little piece of Lily's world in his own city apartment. He started painting again, a hobby he had loved as a child but had abandoned for his career. One evening, Alex was sitting on his sofa, looking out at the twinkling city lights. The apartment was still quiet, but it was no longer an empty silence. It was a peaceful silence. He looked at the painting he was working on, a vibrant landscape of a garden. He thought about his sister, his family, and the new direction his life was taking. He was still successful, but his definition of success had changed. It wasn't about having a busy life anymore. It was about having a full heart. And for the first time in a very long time, Alex felt truly happy. He finally understood that the best things in life aren't things at all. They are the people we love, the passions we follow, and the simple moments of connection that make our hearts feel full.